All right, so today is day 8, and the subject is echoing. Now, what I've done is I just created the beginning. I'm just going to highlight. So I just started with 3 circles. 3 circles here in the middle, and then I literally just echoed them. Now, one of the things I want to point out is when I got to the edge of my paper, I wanted to keep that pattern going because I wanted to have a certain size. And so you can see here, I just pretended that it stopped there and then I just kept it going. So that's something that you do in your free motion quilting. So you would do the same thing in your doodling, because remember, the whole purpose of doodling is to help us to have a better ability to do the free motion quilting, because when we've got the fabric in front of us and we've got the thread, we are becoming more natural at knowing where to go next. So in this example, I just did a daisy, and then I created an echo, and you can see I did 3, and then I 3 lines, 2 spaces. And so this is kind of a fun echo because it's an echo with an echo. Now, one of the things that's really tricky, and I actually use just a regular pen, which I don't love to use. I find that when I use a regular pen, my hand gets cramped easier. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about pens in just a moment. But the larger we have for doodling, the harder it is to make that space, especially how you're sitting on your chair or wherever you're at, because it's coming off over the edge. So your hand is lower than what the paper is. So if your hand was resting on the paper and you're doing this, and then it's not resting on the paper, this is a little bit more difficult to have that stability in your hand. So you can see here I had a little shake. This one I didn't quite get it right in there. So this is something to think about when you're doodling and having that effectiveness. And then this example up here is literally just kind of using that same idea of creating a center design and then creating new spaces and then echoing in creating new designs in these open spaces. So just allowing yourself the idea of creating that. Now, I'm going to just mention, so if you find that your hand is really cramping and using a regular pen, I would say to get a wider marker tip. If you have a wider tip, it's going to be less pressure on your hand, but what's going to happen is it's going to be a thicker design, and so you're not going to have as fine details. Now, I'm just going to talk a little bit about pens themselves. So I thought that gel pens were going to be a good idea. But the problem with gel pens is that they are very fine. So this is a 0.5 millimeter gel tip. So it's actually very thin. So it almost has the same effect as a regular pen. And so I don't prefer to use a gel pen on a larger scale. If I'm maybe using a smaller doodle, I might use a gel pen, but I actually stay away from those. I do really like the classic Sharpie ultra fine tip. But one of the things that I find when I'm using my Sharpie fine tip is if I'm pushing down, if I'm like paused and I don't know where to go next, and if I'm still having my marker down on the paper, it will bleed. And I don't really like that. So if you can get like a 0.7 millimeter, that's a nice but a felt tip, that seems to me that works really well. In fact, I can't find mine, but that one's one of my favorite ones to use. But yeah, so you can play around with there's so many different kinds of just regular pens. Even in here in my purse, I had like 4 different ones. So there's different grips on there. So this one is kind of a ridged grip. This one is more of a substantial grip. This one has just the grips on the side. This has no grips at all. So one of the things that I would recommend is just to try out different grips and see what feels more comfortable to you. Also, this is the elementary school teacher in me. When I think about when you hold your pen, how are you holding it? If you're holding it like this or doing some like funky kind of grips, that's also going to affect your wrist and affect how much you can actually doodle. So I won't go too much into detail about all of that for you right now. But I do want you to think about that. So we have the grips to think about. We have the spaces we're thinking about. We also have the tips. So how much of the ink is coming out at one time. Okay, So I'd love to see what you do for your echo. Don't forget, you can just do the hashtag Dara Doodle Challenge. Just post your pictures. I'd love to see it.